Hey guys, welcome back to my channel SLT Learning, and today we're gonna cover some more questions on Java. Okay, so when you're applying as a fresher or as a like I will just say 1 or 2 year of experience in a QA or QA automation, right? So most of the time in interview they're gonna ask you these kind of questions, right? We have already covered the first part, right? The part six, which covered the 10 questions about Java, and before that we have gone through about the APIs and the manual testing questions. So let's we start with today's agenda, right? What are the questions we're going to cover today? So these are the questions we're going to cover today about the from the Java, like if you're applying for the automation role. Okay, so what is getter and setter, right? What is getter and setter method? They're going to definitely ask these questions if they are hiring for 2 to 3 years of experience in QA automations. Explain the inheritance basic oops concept, but the main important thing is that where you use in your framework, right? Or when you have used in your framework in your training or in your past project. What is constructor? Is it possible to use this or super keyword in constructor, right? Explain the Java main method. Yeah, this is very basic, but they will definitely ask such questions as well, right? What is Java main method? What are the different keywords it contains? Then difference between the declaration and definition. Sometimes these two words confuse us, right? What is declaration and what is definition in Java? Then what are the different modifiers we have, and what is the modifier in Java? Then we will talk about the Java array, right? Like how to declare the array and all those things. Then we will talk about what is Java collections, and then I will just say two functions for the string operation, string buffer versus string builder. So they will definitely ask you this kind of questions in your automation interview. Okay. So before we go further, if you have not subscribed to my channel, I will request you to please subscribe to my channel so I can put more video that will really motivate me, and I will can put more videos about the QA community, about automations and manual testing, and that will help the community to grow further. Okay. So let's we talk about what is getter and setter method, right? So getter and setter method mainly used as the name suggests, right? So get means retrieve the data, and set means setting up or manipulating or updating the data, right? So when you are working, right, when you are working with the Java, right, and when you want to change the value, like you want to change the value of specific, I will just say variable, right? Then for that you should have like a get and set method for each and every, I would just say, is the object of that particular class. Let's suppose I have one field salary, right? As you can see on a field, like salary is a field. I want to set a salary and get a salary, but somehow it may be possible in my program I want to make the change in couple of time to set the salary, right? So how this gonna be work? So if you see on the right side, right? So this is one of the example. Let me just take to the over here. So I have already created, and this is always a good practice, guys. When you work, right, you always try to make these particular things. So you will have this. I would just say always practice like this way to prepare some data, to prepare something that will help you to understand the logic of this particular class. Okay, so you see over here I have one private variable which is salary. Now over here I have two things like set salary. Set salary, that means this is a setter method, guys. Setter method is nothing to just the name set salary, and it will pass the one variable which gonna be set the value. And get salary, it's always be a return type data, right? So it will return the integer. Suppose if we have a string over here, then return type should be string. So this is set the value of integer, and this is get the value of integer. Suppose if I'm creating a department for string department over here, right? So set department means string and s, right? You have to pass the string. I will just say is the parameter over here, and then over here public string get department. That means string will be come over here to return value. So always make sure the getter and setter will work like this way. So data type is very much important over here. If you pass and you just put void over here, right, in a get you put void, then it will not work. So always when you want to get, you have to define the, or you have to make sure you have a return type as an integer, string, or something like that way. Okay, so this is one of the example of getter and setter method, guys. So if you see over here, right, now if I go to this example class, right, if I go to this example class, right, now what is happening? I am just creating an object of this. GetSet master class. This GetSet master class, I'm just creating the object of that particular class, and now I will just say CS set salary 5,000. Then I am updating the salary in the same class. You see, set salary 10,000. So at the both time, the salary will depend on the how you have set, and then I'm just getting like gs dot get salary and gs dot get salary. Okay, so if I run this particular code, you see, I have the salary a variable which contain two value at a different point of time in my class. Okay, so this is how the getter and setter method will help to set the variable and get the variable in a Java. Okay, so you can also, when you try, just try to create some example by yourself. Okay, that will help you and that will gain you some more confidence about these particular two methods. Okay, so the next question will be what is inheritance and where you normally use the inheritance in your framework, right? So we all know, right? The inheritance is something like the one of the OOPS concept which help you to access to acquire the property like variable and method from the one class to another class, right? It's simple example. If you compare with the real time example, it's father and son, right? So whatever the property like father will have, it's directly or indirectly will son can access and son can use that particular property. Okay, now how you can implement the inheritance, right? So the extend keyword will use to show the implementation of inheritance. Okay, so let's suppose you can see over here, right? Public class, subclass, extend, superclass. So this means extend keyword will help subclass to access the property from the superclass. Okay, so now let's we talk about the example in our automation framework. So we know like we have a base class. When we work on a page object model, right, we will have a base class, and in a base class we will have some basic I will just say is the common functions and common methods, right? So at that time, when we create a page object classes, we normally extend the base class, right? So it will initialize the driver, some of the variable and property files and all those things. Okay, then another example, we will have the test ng, right? The before test, after test, before method, after method. So those are the method will it's a super example of inheritance. So you can just talk about these two things. If they will ask you about the example of inheritance, okay, the base class will be the perfect example. Why we will have the inheritance? Because we want to make sure if we have already created some method, right, in a base class or in a one class, and we do not want to spend our time and I will just as resource to create the similar or create a similar structure. At that time we normally extend those information, those properties and method to another class and just use it. Okay, so this is also called to this will also help you to reuse the code, right, from one class to another class, and that will definitely reduce your development and maintenance cost for the your programming purpose. Okay, so inheritance is really very good example of I will just one of the mostly used oops concept in a programming. So practice on those things that will help you to gain the confidence in an interview. Okay, then we will have what is constructor. Okay guys, so what is construction? Like normally I will just say the constructor is the special kind of method, right, which will have the same name as the class name. So when we will have a constructor of the class, right, we do not need to create an object and call it, right? So it will automatically get called when we create a object, right? So we need no need to like create an object and call it like object dot method name, something like that way. So I will show you that will practically, but this is what the constructor is. Okay, the constructor is the special type of method which have the same name as the class name. Okay, so few of the rules that we have to follow when we create a constructor. Okay, the constructor name should be like must be same as a class name, the first thing. The second thing is that constructor must have not explicit return type, means should not return any value, right? That is another example. Then the Java constructor cannot be abstract, static, final or synchronized. So these are the few rules that you have to follow when you create the constructor, right? You cannot make the constructor abstract, or you cannot make the constructor as a final. Okay, that are the few rules you need to follow when you're creating the constructor. So there are the two type of constructor. One is default constructor without argument, without there is no argument, and you just have a similar name as a class name. Then parameterized constructor. Okay, so let's we go and I will just show you the example of constructor. Okay, so you just see this is constructor example. Okay, so I have one class called constructor example, right? and I have one method constructor example. This is default one. I am not passing any argument. Now I have just put this line. Okay. Now what will happen in normal scenario? If I want to call this method, I have to create an object and then I will normally just write like this way, right? I need to put the that particular method name over here. But over here we no need to do because it is the same name as the class name. So when you create a object, right, just creation of the object will automatically call this constructor. Understand, guys? So creation of this particular object will automatically call this constructor. So we do not need to provide like need to call the method by method name because the method name is same as class name. So if I run this particular code, right, it will print this line because this line has been called in this main method by this object creation. Okay, so this is the use of constructors. Let's suppose you do not want to call explicitly any method, right, and you want like these particular functions or this particular logic should be executed at the time of the any object creation. You simply create a constructor and put the information under that constructor. Okay. Perfect. So the next question that this question has been asked in one of the interview that I was recently, right. So is it possible to use this and super both keywords at the same time for the constructor? So I will the answer is no. Why it is no? Because the this and super both are used for the constructor. Okay, those are the both can used for the constructor. This means the I will just say is the normally called the current instance and super will automatically call when you define the super keyword. Okay, so both are used for to call the constructor and hence that is one of them will be used at a time, right? We cannot use both at a time. And about this and super, I'm going to make the separate things to explain you what is this keyword and what is super keyword do. But as of now, the answer of this particular question will be no. We cannot use this and super both at the same time for the constructor because both of them are used to call the constructor, and to call the constructor we can use only one of them. Okay. Then we will have this particular questions explain the Java main method, right? So public static void main strings and the arguments, right? So the first thing that we can see the public, that is the access modifier, right? So we will have a two type of modifier, access modifier and non-access modifier, which we're going to talk about in this particular session itself. So the public is the access modifier, right? Then static is the keyword. You know the static and non-static method, right? The default method will be non-static, and if you want to define any method as static, we have to use keyword static. Then the void will be the return type, right? It could be the void integer string or something like that way. So void will be the return type of that particular method, and the main will be the method name. So the main word is specifically the method name that inform the JVM, right? The Java virtual machine from where you need to start your execution of code. So main is the method, then string, as you can see it's array argument. So over here it's a list of array argument you can normally have. Okay, so public static void main string argument means access modifier, keywords, return type, methods, and string array. Okay, now there is one more questions they're gonna ask you. Do we is it possible to have multiple main methods? So I will just say the answer of this particular question is yes. You should have you can have a multiple main method in your Java project, but it could be the definition and the declaration of both the method would be different, right? They both not should be like similar, otherwise it will give you the duplicate method name error. Okay, so yes, multiple main method is possible in Java, but the declaration and definition will be different from the one to another. Okay, now the question is come around like what is the difference between declaration and definition, right? So declare itself, like I will just say, if something is exist, right? Let's suppose myself is or one of my friend, right, is exists in this particular world. So his name is like Sachin, right? So Sachin is there, but what kind of person is Sachin, that is called definition of Sachin. Okay, so declaration means existence of variable, class, or method, and definition is what gonna they perform any actions, what value they store, or what particular activity got they gonna perform, that is called definition. Okay, so this is the basic difference. declaration and definition. Declare means you know the existing of these particular things, and how and what is that things or other characteristic of that particular things will be defined in the definition. Okay, so in a declaration it will just show the name and the data type, right? So like Sachin is the male, right? Sachin is the boy. But in a definition it will show the actual implementation, like what kind of boy, like he's intelligent, clever, or what kind of boy he is, right? So something like that way. So definition show the actual implementation of that particular objects. Now declaration can be done one or multiple time for the variable and function, but the definition will remain the same. Okay, the definition we cannot change. We should have to define the variable and function at a time. Declaration do not consume any memory because just declaring the value, but definition will consume the memory because we need to put the logic of that particular things. So let me just show you this example. Okay, so we all know, right, whenever we have the variable, right? So this is the two things, like if you declare this variable like integers, this is one of the variable. So this is just declaration, right? The integer salary is the one variable, but what variable will have, this is the definition of that particular variable. Okay, now the similar way, public void do work, right? This is method declaration, do work. But what kind of work you need to do, that is defined in this particular method body. So that is called method definition, right? So do work, that is the one of the method name. That means the method declaration. But what kind of work or what actually work you need to do, that is called the method definition, right? Method definition is also called the method body. So whatever the logic you will contain under the method body, that is called the method definition. The similar way, this is the class declaration, right? And what that class will contain, this is the class definition. Okay, so this is the class, I will just say class declaration, and this is the class definition, guys. So class definition will have different variables, different methods, and all those things. Okay, so declaration and definition, this is the two different concept for the when we define any variable or method or in a class. Okay, now let's we go. What is the modifier, right? So as the name suggests, right, modifier is normally used to modify the behavior of the class, method, and variable, right? So there are two type of modifier: the access modifier and non-access modifier, right? So the access modifier, that we, as the name suggests, right, it control the access level of that particular variable, class, or method in a project. Where the non-access modifier, they do not control the access level, but they help to provide the other functionality, like final mean you cannot modify the value method, value of the variable or method. Abstract keyword, that means you cannot create the object or that particular method or class. Then static keyword, so these are the non-access modifier. Where the access modifier are public, private, protected, and default. So now there is a detailed question we maybe come arise, like what is the difference between private and protected, what is the difference between protected and default, right? So you can see the answer from this particular question itself. The public, that means that specific code is accessed by all the class in a project. Private means the code is accessible within declared class, only within a class. I will make the separate video about this access modifier, so you can have a detailed understanding about these things. But as of now, the question is that what is the modifier and what are the different type, access and non-access modifier. Okay, so public, private, protected, and default, final, abstract, and static are the non-access modifier. Then what is Java array, right? And how to declare the Java array? So sometimes we all know, right, the array is the collection of similar type of value, right? So we will have an array which will store the similar type of value. Like let's suppose if I will declare one variable, right, string name, right? So suppose I will have this example. Let me just show you this example. I have already created that example. Okay, so I have created the single dimension array, right? So we will have a string name, right? And it is Ankit Prajapati, right? So now suppose if I want to store another name, right? If I want to store another name like string name, and I will just say Sachin, right? So it is showing me some error. It just says duplicate local variable, right? So you cannot have another name as another variable name as name, because, but even though the my main purpose is to store the Sachin's name under the name field, but in Java this is one of the, I will just say, the limitation for the variable. And to overcome this limitation we will have a string array, right? So this is how you can define the string array, right? So sometimes people says like where we need to use this big bracket. So you can use it over here as well, or you can use it after the array name as well. Okay. So over here in my string array, I will have two property, two values, right? Sachin and Bilal. And if I want to print this particular two value, I can just say name array, then 0 and 1. And array is always start with the 0. Okay. For this one, I have already prepared some videos for Java programming, right? So if you go with the Java programming, the array and how the looping will be work, what are the data type, so all those information you will find in these two videos, guys. So I will recommend you to just go through these videos, that will help you practically to know the concept about the array. Okay. And if I want to print this two name, I will print like this way. So understand what is the purpose of array, to overcome this limitation to have the same variable name. Now I can use the same variable names like a array name to store the multiple value, and that is the reason it's called array is the collection of similar data type values. Okay. So data type will remain the string. And how you can declare the array, you can declare the single dimension array, you can declare like this way. You can use this big bracket after the name of the array, and multi-dimension row and column you can also define like this way. Okay. But this will help you in this particular video. I have cleared that particular concept about array in detail. So I will suggest you just go with this one. It will also have like how the character and string conversion work and all those things. Okay. So this particular video will help you to understand those things. So just go through these particular things
Values,
because I
right?
have
I
explained
have
in
to
a
write
detail.
down
You see,
35
everything I have
times
explained in
this
a detail.
statement. So that
Now let's we go to the next question. What is Java collections, right? So Java collections represent the single unit of an object, right? So array, now the array you see over here, right? So array will have some limitation, right? So array limitation is that when you declare or define the array, you cannot resize, right? You cannot, let's suppose my array value, my array length is for value, right? It will gonna store the for value. So once you define and declare, you cannot modify like now I want to store the fifth value, or I want to delete any value or something like that way. So that is the few of the operations that we cannot use on data, right? To overcome those things, we will have a Java collection, right? And Java collection will provide some more capability compared to LA, like searching the value, sorting the object, insert the value, manipulate the value, and delete the value. So Java collection, they will definitely ask you what are the different type of the Java collection. So you see the blue, that is called the collection, right? And the green are the interface. So these are the three interface in Java collection: list interface, queue interface, and set interface. And other than that, you can see below of that particular interface are the classes. So under the list interface, you will see the array list, linked list, vector, stack. Under the queue interface, you will have priority queue, array queue. Then under the set interface, you will have hash set, linked set, sorted set, and tree set. So these are the different type of the collections. Collection is the combination of different interface and classes that will help you to do the more operations on the data. Okay. So if you speak at least 6 to 7 words from this particular collection set, that is more than enough in your interview. Then the last question that we have for today is string buffer and versus string builder, right? So we all know, right? The string is immutable, right? So that means you can change the string. So whenever you change the string, that will generate the entire new string, right? It will not store the old version of that particular string. And that is the reason we will have the multiple classes that will help you to do the string operations. And those are the two class we will have: string buffer and string builder. For this one, I will create a separate video, right? But to just differentiate between them two, right, you can use this particular point. So string buffer is the present from in a Java from the, I will just say I will just from the beginning, right, where the string builder introduced in Java 5. String buffer is the synchronized, and that we all know, right? If it is a synchronized, that means multiple thread cannot call this method of string buffer at the same time. Where string builder is synchronized, it's asynchronized or non-synchronized, right? It's a non-synchronized. That means multiple thread can call the method of string builder at the same time. String buffer called thread sep, right, where the string builder do not call the thread sep because it is asynchronized. String buffer is a lot faster than, lot slower than builder, and string builder is faster than string buffer. Why? The reason is that it is non-synchronized, so that multiple thread can access it, and that make the operation bit faster than the string buffer. So this is the two things that they will definitely ask you when they will want to talk about the string and their operations. So I will suggest always make sure this question is a must ask question from the interview. So string buffer and string builder, just understand the basic definitions and the 2 or 3 point of their difference. Okay, so hope, I think this clear your mindset about like what kind of questions they normally ask in an automation interview, right? And what kind of the things you need to prepare by yourself by making the practice on specific things. So if you still have any questions which has been asked in your interview, right, and it is got unanswered, you will have a confusion to answer that particular questions, and you want a practical video for that one, just do let me know. I will definitely go and make that specific video. If you like this video, it is if it is helpful to you, please share to your team or share to your friends who are preparing for the interview for the qa and qa automation. And if you like this video, please share, subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much.